Good afternoon, good evening, good metal. My name's Coop and welcome to the Spoken Metal Show. This episode was a lot of fun. Got to sit down with Thomas and we'll get into that in a second. Just want to say thanks to everybody that was suggesting people who should come on the show. And subsequently off the back of the suggestions we have on Thursday, the fantastic and powerful Joe Mortimer representing an extreme side of music that I've been kind of dipping into and want to kind of bring forward and people to hear a little bit more about. Fantastic individual Joe. A lot of people suggested for him to come on the show, so we got in touch and we made it happen. I got someone else coming on next week from across the pond as well, also based upon people's suggestions. So if there is someone you want to hear on the show or you think should come on the show, please suggest to them to me, and they can message me or I'll message them and we'll try and make this work. I often thought that I'd run out of people, and now the list is just getting bigger than ever. And I want to thank the listeners and you, the audience, for doing that, which is superb. Also, the suggestions of things that we should cover has come up and really kind of blossomed in light of me throwing it out there and saying, listen, what do you want us to talk about? I do that on the Friday live show where we go, okay, what do you want to talk about? And from that, I get a list of people that I should be listening to, artists I should be listening to. But the overriding thing that comes up is the talking about how after the pandemic and the coronavirus, how the live music scene will look, what will live venue scenes look like, and it's a huge topic, and I'm kind of toying with how to approach it. Possibly some kind of Zoom conference like we did with Get Into This, and we did with the Get Into This when we did it at the phase 1, and we did the metal conference. We could do maybe something like that. I've got a fabulous guest next week, which will be from across the pond based on suggestions as well. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of different people's takes from all across the world as well. Just thank you again for listening to the show. Thank you for sharing it. It's the only way this continues, the only way it stays interesting and more important, relevant. And it entertains you. I hope it does. I hope the show really does entertain you while some hours away, maybe amuses you or informs you in some way. And that's always really been the goal for me. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. This is Thomas Shrimpton. Let's swim, get swimming as the sun sleeps. As a drum tech support and a drummer in couples therapy. Toured relentlessly. Great guy. Wonderful drummer. Really want to check out him. I'll put links on the podcast to his drumming sort of information and videos that he does. Really informative, really interesting style. Nice and relaxed and stuff. You can learn an incredible amount from him. And we talk about everything. We talk about starting up and being in metal bands and touring and what that looks like, and the pitfalls of signing contracts and having contracts and kind of the things that can happen from that. Really interesting conversation with a really sort of positive person, fabulous drummer. And I'm going to put links to all the various projects he's been, because he's been in every single band that's ever existed, but toured relentlessly. So there's an enormous amount that people may get from this who are thinking about that type of lifestyle and thinking about kind of drum teching and the whole sort of outlook about how you approach, the very sort of movement through as a musician, the different phases that go on. He's had a very interesting life, but also just a really good outlook on, positivity throughout. And I thought that was a really strong message, and I wanted to get that across with him, where we covered a lot of stuff, and we'll probably cover some more. Shall we get him on again? Yes, most definitely we will. But here for now, please enjoy Thomas Shrimpton. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by the fabulous Thomas Shrimpton. What a nice what a massive CV the gentleman's got. Let's swim, get swimming, as the sun sleeps, couples therapy. He's a fabulous drum tech, to crazy drum tech, and all round superb drummer as well. Anybody that's seen the gentleman online and seen the stuff that he's doing, super nice, Tom. But he's also really fucking good at his job. So we're going to get into all of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Thomas Shrimpton to the show.
Hey, dude, how's it going? You all right?
I'm all right, big man. I'm all right. So, I mean, we've been trying to get this one done for a while, haven't we? We were going to try and do it in person, and then life intervened, so we couldn't get it done, unfortunately.
Yeah, we met in the before at that wrestling show. No, the after party wrestling show, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, who was it? Was it As the Sun Sleeps played it?
Yeah, it was As the Sun Sleeps in Junior.
Yeah, Junior, that was it. Yeah, we kind of got talking off the back of that. We were kind of trying to get it together, but Tom's based in Brighton, so it was a little bit of a slog. And what we were going to say, we were going okay, I'll wait till you come through touring, and I'll catch you then. And I was like, oh shit, look what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, the best laid plans. So I mean, there's a lot to cover with this, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of people will have a lot of questions about what Tom does. It's probably best, as always, to kind of start where does music kind of come into your life then? When did it all begin for you from a music point of view?
I guess I was really late, I guess, compared to most people. Most people, I guess, kind of get into music when they're, a kid, like 6 or 7 or whatever, when they start playing drums.
Yeah.
But I just liked music at the beginning. I had no intention of being a drummer, if I'm telling you honest. I literally had no interest. I liked football, and that was it, every day. And then I got a kit for Christmas, as they do, when I was 14 or 15. I think I was about 15.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was it, straight in, playing. The first song I ever learned was, I Believe in a Thing Called Love by the Darkness.
Okay.
Classic banger.
Yeah.
And I was just straight in, just absolutely head over heels, went straight into lessons. And that didn't last too long. It lasted about a year. And I was in a band straight away within about a couple of months. I was just obsessed. And that band was it was called This Time We're Fighting Dirty. It was classic kid band,
That's not bad. I'm obsessed with first band names. I've heard some brilliant ones, but that's all right. That's okay. That's not too bad.
Well, TTWFD was a bit of a mouthful. I'll give you that after a few years. But yeah, that was awesome. Straight away we went and did an album. I've got it on my iTunes, so I'll have to send you after this because it is. I'm not gonna lie. I reckon we could have got signed if we weren't.
It wasn't bad,
Yeah. I still listen to them now and go, you know what? If that was actually produced not by someone who's rubbish, it would have been good.
It's amazing to me that it seems you moved fairly fast. It seems like you very much fell in love with it and just kind of embraced drumming and embraced everything fairly quickly. Was it a quick process or?
Mate, absolutely. So I was in my first signed band just after school when I was just turned 17, actually. So just turned 17. I don't know if you remember them, Rising Records.
I remember Rising Records, yeah.
Obviously, his record label turned out to be a bit of a mess.
It didn't really work out. Yeah.
No, but when he wasn't a tax evader and a massive crook, it was really good.
What's amazing to me is that, like, even at 17, even if you're a good player, you're not even close to being the musician that you are when you're kind of like, in your 20s and 30s. At 17, you've still got a ton of mistakes yet to make. But if you park that to the side, there's also the you're just 17 aspect of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're not old enough to drink, technically speaking, and so like which venues you can go and stuff. And then I throw into the whole business thing. That was, I mean, there's obviously the arrogance and ignorance of youth. We've all had it where you kind of just go, it doesn't matter. Let's just sign this record deal. Let's just sign this whatever deal, and let's just get this done. And what I'm getting to is that's an amazing thing to have, of kind of being like, you know what, it doesn't matter, just let's go on this adventure, irrespective of how it turns out. There's a wonderful sort of, wanderlust to that. I love that, like, but 17 and going and doing an album.
Yeah, it was pretty, I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty crazy. It was so we met at a thing called Rock School. I don't know if you have Rock School. Yeah, so in Swindon at Churchfield School, which is now called the Lawn Something Academy, which I couldn't believe. I've just come back to my hometown for this during this pandemic, and I was going for a run, and I was like, Churchfield was a shithole, mate. Probably. Sorry to any of my mates who went to Churchfield to listen to this, but yeah, now it's called the Lawn Something Academy, and it's all royal blue, and I was like, wow, this place has changed. So we used to go to this grotty school, and all the musicians that were in Swindon went to this place, and I was quite late, so as I said, I started quite late, so I went to a thing called drum school. And just occasionally someone would come in and say, there's an opening for Rock School and I want to do it. And every time I was like, yes, please. And I did a cover of Chop Suey and luckily managed to get in. And that's where I met the boys, the Dead Lay Waiting guys.
Yeah.
And that was where it all began. Literally straight away. I joined in because one of the guys, Patrick Campbell-Blight, was going to leave, which was the drummer. So I jumped in. And then in 2 weeks was the Rock School gig.
Yeah.
They said, do you fancy doing that? I was like, I've been here for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I haven't even sat behind the kit yet. And we were like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we wrote 2 songs within a week and played the gig, and that was it. We were all just really, really good friends. And just, it was. I'm trying to wrap my brain of obviously the timeline. But then we did a little EP called, I think it was self-titled, little EP. Did the standard thing. We were 16 at this point. We sent it to all the record labels, Roadrunner and who was it at the time. And for goodness sake, but yeah, loads of independent metal records and stuff. And then Rising Records got back to us. Yeah. And by this point, we'd done a good 3 or 4 UK tours at 17, I think.
Wow.
It was we were on the road pretty quick.
Were you the youngest? Were you the youngest guy in the band, or what was the age sort of?
No, there was one guy who was I think he must have been 18 or 19. The rest of us were just 17.
Wow.
The rest of us were all kids. So yes, we got the message from Rising Records saying, look, come and play a gig in oh goodness me, Ipswich. Come play a gig in Ipswich. And we already had a gig that afternoon, so we had to do a gig that afternoon, then drive up to Ipswich, go and do the gig in Ipswich, and then we had to be back down south again for our gig in Bristol. So in 24 hours, basically, we've done 3 gigs just to make sure that gig would work.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary to me that was like at that age as well. So what did they sound like? What did this band sound like? Was it pop punk? Where were we with it? What was it kind of horrid?
This was a heavy metal band. This was a straight up heavy metal band.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We got into singing choruses in the end, but at the very beginning, I don't think there was any singing. I think it was just straight up gutturals and stuff. Yeah. And some of those, I think one of them made it onto the first album actually. It was called The Last Stand. That made it onto the album from that first EP. And yes, we did the gig in Ipswich. We saw this geezer. We didn't know what he looked like. We saw this geezer. He stood around the show and he left straight away. We're like, fucking hell, we blew it, boys. That was shit, wasn't it? And then we literally got a message half an hour later after the gig saying, be in my office Monday morning.
Wow.
And that was it. So our parents all had to drive us down because we were underage. We were all 17. So our parents, bar Justin, one of the guys, had to sign the contracts for us on our behalf.
Wow, that's extraordinary. Were you kind of like, I mean, you wouldn't know what you were signing almost, would you? I mean, it's good that you've got your parents, and that's probably why that rule exists, but even then, what were your parents kind of a musical ilk? Did they know what you may be signing for? Or
not at all.
Sort of advances, or?
Not at all. None of our parents, as far as my knowledge goes, none of our parents were musically minded. But luckily, when I was 17, I went to the Academy of Contemporary Music in Guildford. It sounds much more fancy than it is, I promise. It's not. So I went to HCM and did my diploma. And luckily, when we got the contract from Ipswich, I went back to college and showed it to one of my lecturers. And he said, well, he said the few things that he changed. But one of them was distribution of the world. And he was like, we need specifics. I was like, okay, I would have had no idea.
Right.
I'd have just gone, yeah, cool, the world, nailed it.
Yeah, because the simple things that, like, that you really should know when signing things like favoured nations. People don't understand that type of thing, and how poor like 360 deals. We talk about 360 deals on the show a lot, and about the kind of the pitfalls. And music industry is littered with young rock and roll stars signs terrible deal. Those stories are prevalent. So how long was the deal for that you first signed? Was it just for one record, or?
It was 5 years.
Shit.
Yeah, straight in, 17 years old, you're contracted until you're 22.
That's
it wasn't 5 years, it was 5 albums. It wasn't 5 years, 5 albums, sorry.
Okay, still 5 albums is essentially 5 years, yeah.
It was longer.
Jesus Christ. That's a lot. That's a massive sort of anchor to put on yourself, isn't it,
Well, he did 2 deals. He did DIY, which is where you pay an amount of money, which I believe was $8,000, and then he would record it and do all the press and all that kind of business.
Yeah.
Or you do the 5 year, and he'll pay for absolutely everything and take a cut.
We
were like, well, we're 17, we haven't got jobs. Let's do it. There's no way we're going to afford $8,000. Let's go for 5 years. Let's do it.
Yeah. Wow. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Thomas recently, you got your masters, didn't you? In your in the music, for one of a longer way of saying it, the music industry, and it's kind of that whole. Did you when you kind of would study in your masters? Did you think, what the fuck did we sign when I first signed that? Did you think Christ on a bike, that was bad?
I do. When I was sat in that lecture and there was a few album terminologies going around, I was like, fuck me, what did we do? what the hell was that about? Yeah, man, I don't regret it because, I got to do some
it got to where you are now.
Incredible things.
Yeah. I mean, so in terms of what you were listening to yourself at that particular time, what were you listening? What was the music you go-to stuff there? Was it the heavy stuff, or was it coming from another place?
Or back when I did the Deadly Waiting?
Yeah, when you were first recording with them.
Oh, mate, I was such a metalhead. I was absolutely obsessed. Well, it's just like everyone, I'm sure. You start off listening to Green Day and Eminem, the normal generic stuff. Yeah. And then I remember being an absolute little nipper, and my dad got me a Metal Hammer DVD.
Okay.
And it had Bullet for Valentine, Four Words to Choke Upon, Trivium Pool, Hard on the Strings of Your Mart.
I know the CD and I know the magazine. Yes, I'm cursed by good knowledge. Yeah, they used to do like it doesn't happen so much anymore, but they used to do that where they were with a band. I'm from a time when they put a plastic vinyl on the cover of a magazine. They don't do that anymore, that's for sure. And they would put compilation CDs. And normally, what they would do is it would be bands playing covers, so they could get away with kind of, I imagine legal entanglements that would come up from that. So you kind of listened to that, so it was like Bullet for My Valentine and that type of thing?
Yeah, that 2004 era, I guess.
Yeah, like Hand of Blood and stuff, and Four Words to Choke Upon and stuff. Yeah.
What a banger. So yeah, that was my first opening to metal, and still one of my favourite eras of metal. Like those that anger I don't think exists anymore.
Really?
It's so overproduced now. I think the anger's gone. Like, don't be wrong, Architects is one of my favourite metal bands at the time, but it's not the same aggression that you get from Slipknot records,
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Moose is it's insanely good drummer for Bullet, like, insanely good drummer. But it's interesting you say that about that aggression. It's almost kind of produced out of the music, almost. On a show a couple of shows ago, we were talking about how Ross Robinson produced the first Slipknot album, and he really and Korn for that matter, and he really kind of put them in difficult positions to get that uncomfortableness and to get that anger out and stuff. So when you first started going into a studio to record, what was that like? Was that another wide-eyed, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing moment again?
That was kind of, for most, that was the first real, like, oh my God, I am not good enough for this. That was the very first moment. Everything else I was kind of cool about, because, when you write your songs, you play to your ability. You kind of overplay a little bit, but, you learn how to play to that ability. And, live shows, I'd never had stage fright. Still don't. I probably have more stage fright now than I did before. And I had no problems doing it. Then when I sat down in that seat in that room, it took me 6 hours to get the first track down.
Wow, you got that red light fever. Yeah.
I just sucked. I sucked ass, mate. I was rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. And then on day 2, something clicked and I had the rest of the record tracked that day, which was a 14-track record.
You just kind of figured it out. You just kind of found your space. Like, it happens. It happens. So when did they immediately put you to work then? Did you go out, start touring pretty much quite intensely? Yeah, so we were, our first record did really, really well. It was called We Rise, and it was out 2008, I think, maybe 2009. And straight away we were on Scuzz TV and Kerrang TV and in Metal Hammer, Big Cheese, Kerrang Magazine, all that stuff. Still only 18 years old. Like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, it's a whirlwind. And then we were nominated for a Metal Hammer Award. Right. Again, being 18, like, are you absolutely mental? Why do you like this music? What is wrong with you? How much has Mark paid you to like this record? So yes, we were all pretty blown away from the get-go. So the fact that all those TVs and magazines and all that stuff, they dug it straight away. It was so easy to tour. So Mark had an in-house guy called Aid Fisk, who's an absolute G. He booked everything, so we were on the road constantly. Yeah. Well, you got to it's getting the tour miles in. I imagine you did something quite a lot of the festival circuit then. Based on that. Yeah, we did Download 09, which was really good. That was really, really great actually, because there was no one. We were on the third stage and nobody was playing on the first or second at the time we were on. Oh yeah, you had that little break and people would check it out. Yeah. So it was absolutely packed. I mean, mental. It was pretty crazy for us anyway. I still think it's crazy if I think about it now. And I remember straight away. So the set always started with a 4 count, and it was my hats in the China going, so it's nice and aggressive. And I hit the 4 count, and my China flies right off my riser. Oh mate, if you could see my face, it was probably priceless. Amazing. I imagine we live in a time where there is probably footage of that somewhere. If someone digs, they can find that. That exists. It fucking does. You get away with nothing now. Did you find yourself noticeably improving on a number of fronts? Did you find yourself improving as a musician at this point, playing live a lot in a lot of intense situations? And did you find yourself improving as a musician as a whole, like knowing what to do live and kind of, being able to orchestrate a set list to kind of really kind of get the pop out the crowd? Did you find yourself, was that noticeable to you, or was it still a whirlwind? No, it was definitely noticeable. So it's strange. I never practiced. I practice a hell of a lot now. I really do. I put in a good 4 or 5 hours a day normally if I can.
But back then, nothing. My rehearsals were band practices. We did band practices non-stop. We either played a gig or we rehearsed in the room. That was it. Yeah. And the songs were getting harder and harder and harder, but I was able to keep up much easier than I did at the beginning. And I kind of turned a corner or hit a step or whatever, and it was easy. And well, it wasn't easy. That's a complete lie. That's making me sound a lot cooler than I was. It was a lot easier to keep up with the harder stuff that we were writing. It helped that I wrote with some incredible musicians. They were absolutely, phenomenal. Yeah. And I was always business minded in the first place. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was that age, I did drink a lot of beer and had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. But I was always very, very business minded in the way that I made sure the set list worked. And we had we had really good seamless intermissions between each song, and
it flowed. Right? Yeah. Exactly. Did you find yourself because you are at a unique position where you can watch someone maybe side of stage, a little bit of stage tourism, and kind of seeing bands and stuff? Did that kind of help as well? And seeing like drum setups and things like that, and going, oh, he has it placed to the left, or his china is this height, and this is how he marks out his particular kit. Did you get to see that then, and kind of informed your own playing?
Yeah, that happened more in my early 20s, I would say. Not so much when we were doing the first album, because I was still kind of finding out who I was, and I was just, like you said, I was probably still very much in the moment without realizing it. I was just like, this is my kit, and I'm absolutely loving it, and that's that. And I only focus on our shows. I watched some incredible people side of stage, don't get me wrong, but I was so in my head about what we were doing. I mean, I wish I could go back and look at it now, but I just had no idea. Drums were drums as far as I was concerned, and you hit them as fucking hard as fast as you can, and that was that.
It still is for many. So when does that do you start going into Europe then? Are you traveling abroad at this point?
Yeah, so at about 20, maybe 21.
Okay.
I'm going to, 2021, let's just go with that. And we did a UK and Europe tour with Trigger the Bloodshed and Bleed From Within. Mm-hmm. That was the first big Europe tour we did, I think. And that was a good 60 days or so, 50 days.
Right.
We were a little bit older this time, so it was a bit easier. We weren't like little nippers anymore. We were 20 odd, maybe 19. I really can't remember. It all blurs into one a bit. But I think between 19 and 21, so there's a good 2 or 3 gap there. Yeah. And, so that was the first eye opener, definitely, in terms of this is how you sound check much better. This is how you tune, skin.
Yeah. What I was kind of alluding to as well is that you kind of understand the flow of a day. Something like you understand what call sheets are, and you understand what your day sheet is, and how like day rooms work, and what you're meant to do at a sound check, and what you're meant to do with things. And were you in a world where you were doing sort of press as well? I imagine so. You were doing like meet and greets or anything like that. Were you in that world yet?
We were doing those kind of things just before that Europe tour, because we were mainly headlining around the UK, because we'd done it. Yeah. By 19 or so, we'd done the UK. Yeah. God, so many times. You've done Scotland loads and Wales, UK. We did it all about 4 or 5, a good 4 times, I'd say, at that point. Yeah. But that UK Europe tour with Bleed From Within, Trigger the Bloodshed was our first support tour.
Right.
So that was when we weren't in control of, like, we just turn up and do our sound check and do our thing. So so that really was the eye opener of this is your slot time for sound check. 20 minutes, that's what you got, or half an hour, whatever. This is your room. Because normally we would just get told what our room is and wander in, but where other there's higher bands in this bill, they've got more importance and they've got higher rooms. So we really did find our place in that one for sure.
Yeah, you kind of it's when you're in a band, for those that may be listening that aren't aware or just starting out with a band, there's certain sort of moments when you realise you're not the biggest fish in this pond, and you get moved from pond to pond. And what will happen is when you go on like the large tour, one of the games that you have to learn to play is you have to be good, and your band has to be good. That's a given. But you also have to learn how to interact with the other people in the band, and how not to be a dickhead, and not to kind of when you're meant to go to catering, when you're not meant to go to catering, how long you're meant. You learn all this stuff, and it's something you can't really read. You have to learn it in yourself how to become like a more balanced touring human being, I think is probably the best way to put it. So were you still in vans at this point, or in hotel rooms, or when did you progress? Did you progress to a tour bus?
We always did vans. I reckon if we did one more record, we'd have been there. But you were so right about that stuff. You learn so much from being on the road. And like you said, you can't read it. It's just stuff you learn, and you make the mistakes, and that's how you learn. No one really tells you until you make the mistake.
People often think one of the fallacies is that they think that the larger bands pick the bands who are going to be kind of supporting them because the record company says you've got to take this band out with you. That kind of does happen from time to time, not as often as people think, or it's a buy-on where someone pays to be on that show. But for the vast majority of the time, the people that go out with them are people that they've picked because they get on with those people. That's why you see bills sometimes where you're like, how the hell are they supporting that band? And you're like, they don't even sound that the same. But the reason is because they probably grew up together or they know each other really well. Because what you want as a touring artist is you want everything to be as easy as possible. So if it means like having someone out with you that for like you're out on a 120-day tour, a massive tour, or you're going around the States, you want to take someone out with you who the 2 or 3 days that you have off, you can hang with. You know what I mean? It's incredibly important. And that's why sometimes you get those crazy bills where it's like, how are they supporting them? Oh, no, they're really good mates. He used to tech for them and that type of thing. At this stage, did you have any techs with you? Did you have any backline techs or anything like that?
No, this is
still
all
yourself.
Back then I didn't even know they existed. But Trigger the Bloodshed did their own gear, and Bleed from Within did their own gear, and they were pretty big at the time.
Yeah,
they had a driver. We all had drivers, and they had a sound engineer that was doing both their sets. But we were happy. We were just happy to be touring and playing, hitting the road with these really really cool shows. Some men, Europe's very different to the UK, as I'm sure you know. The shows are just way better in the metal scene anyway. Yeah. The shows are way better. They just do whatever the hell they want, and they have the best time doing it. And I used to love that. Love that.
There's a noticeable change when you get on that ferry, isn't there? Or when you fly out to Sweden or whatever it may be. There's a noticeable change amongst the crew when you get to Europe. It's a weird thing. Anybody that's ever toured with any American artists, when you go in Britain and then you switch to go into Europe, there's a noticeable change. I can't explain it. It just exists, where they suddenly become even a nice, open up more as well. It's very weird. It's a beautiful thing. Europe has a different sort of mentality. A lot of the places that are in Europe, a lot of the clubs will have a night, say a Thursday night or whatever it is, where people will just come to see music, whether your band's on or not. They'll come and just come to see music, and they'll go, well, we're going to give you 3-4 minutes or your first 2-3 songs. And if we like it, we're going to give it up. If we're not, then we'll go to the bar. But they will genuinely do that, and it's something that the UK's lost a little bit of people just going to see music, irrespective if they know that person. Europe's like this magical wonderland sometimes,
Massively. I remember the UK used to be like that. When I was 13, 14, I'd go to what used to be the Furnace in Swindon and never look at the bill, but I knew all my mates were there on the Friday night, so I'd go down. And there was a big band or there was some shit band or whatever. You didn't really care. It was you out with your boys and there's some cool band on or whatever. Europe's still like that, which is great.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So at what stage do things move along then with this band? So we've got a 5-album deal. Yeah. We're in what? We're in the second year, maybe a year and a half of this. We've got an album out. When do things start either going wrong or, if you want to say, going right? When did that start to happen?
So I'd say after that UK and Europe tour with Bleed from Within, Trigger the Bloodshed, that was. Why had we done that by then? We played. Oh God, this is so difficult.
Chronologically putting it together, yeah.
Did that festival before or after? I think it was that UK and Europe tour with Trigger the Bloodshed and Bleed from Within was a massive turning point for us for sure. Yeah. But we did Metal Hammerfest as well, or Hammerfest, I think it was called.
Yeah, Hammerfest. Yeah.
I think that was before that 2010 era was our good one. We just done that big UK tour and Europe tour with them. Then we were in the studio to write Almost Heaven, which was our second record. And that did really well. That did really well. I really enjoyed it. I still enjoy that record now. Yeah. And because one of our tunes, it was called The Days I'm Gone, and that was not an instant hit.
I remember it being pretty critically well received. Like I remember that. I remember it being pretty well received. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it was really well received. I think now it's got like 300,000 views on YouTube or whatever, which isn't huge, but for us at the time it was like in a day it was like 50,000. Like, what's going on? And we sold like 5,000 CDs, which again for us, like it's not we're not Rihanna or anything, but that's fucking cool if I'm honest. So that record was our big one. We were then touring Europe on our own. as the headliner, and still, filling out for 300-400 cap venues and stuff.
What did you find changed then from being support to headliner? Because people don't realise as well potentially that's not just changing what time you're coming on. It doesn't. There's a whole other world comes into play when you become the headliner. The weight of the entire show is on you, right? Exactly. So what did you find changed?
Well, luckily we've done loads of UK tours, so we understood what it was like to be a headliner. But doing it completely different, doing it in Finland or Czech Republic or anywhere, Italy or whatever. Yeah. And I think we recognised that if there was going to be people there, they were there for us, and that's it. Or all the support back, of course. Wasn't all about us. But that was a pretty mental thought. The fact that you all got booked up pretty quick. We did. We were on tour with Scarred by Beauty. And they supported us, and they're super great. They were fucking well good. Check out Scarred by Beauty. They were mental. And we got booked up super quick, and it was 63 days, I think.
Okay.
And I think it was about 59 shows in those 63 days.
Wow, okay.
It was pretty mental. Maybe like 57 or something. But it was like 5 or 6 days off, maybe less. It was pretty onslaughted. So it got booked up really quick. Aid, the guy who was booking it, was in good contact with us. So we felt kind of comfortable because it got booked up so quick. We were like, well, people must be pretty hungry for it, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. I
guess.
Yeah. And yes, we were pretty ready. We were pretty stoked. We did the UK run, fine, seamless. Not many bad shows, not that I can remember anyway. And then we hit Europe, and it was so much better. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was super special. I'll never forget some of those times. Not all of them, because there was a lot of beer involved, but I won't forget some of them.
Did you find as you were kind of getting out there and people were going, okay, listen to this band, or you were seeing this band at a festival or whatever, did you find that your listening tastes grew then? Did they grow almost exponentially from being kind of out in the field, if you will?
Wait, what's the question? Sorry.
Did you find that going out and being touring and being around other musicians and people I would assume would suggest other bands to you and stuff like that, did you find yourself listening to way more stuff now? Did your ears get opened up to a whole sort of spectrum of music?
Yeah, I'd say so to a degree. I was definitely listening to a lot more local bands.
Right.
Because, back then we had a little CD player in the van, and near enough every single night somebody would give us a CD, like, check this out, or can we do a merch swap, whatever? Like, yeah, we'll give you a T-shirt or whatever. Like, we don't really mind. We're all chill. Everyone was always giving a CD. So we checked out loads and loads of local bands. Big bands, you're so on tour and you're too busy watching a DVD on your laptop or whatever. You've got a 7-hour drive, and you got a gig straight away. So you were too busy sleeping or hungover or whatever, or it wasn't a lot of time to check out new music. But we'd always whack a CD on in the car. There was always somebody racking the playlist.
Yeah.
I remember the first Europe tour we did. We had a sat nav, and the second we got into France, it might have been a TomTom. I think they're the same thing. And we got into France, and it wasn't configurated.
Okay.
So luckily we had an A to Z or whatever it's called in the glove box, and that was it. A month off that.
Can you imagine? Like, there's going to be young bands out there now touring with all the technology that I have, and don't realise that at one point we had to tour with a map with a piece of paper.
They will never understand when that TomTom just clocked off and said no, it won't work. We're like, what are we going to do?
What do we do now?
We've got to be in Sicily in 10 hours. Where is it, left or right?
It's where you find out if you can do it or not. Like, that's it. Like, so this all seems great. This seems like, album to album is getting, performance to performance. Everything seems to be moving in a really great stance. It feels like there's a punchline coming up now.
So obviously all this, second album received really, really well. We did the Kerrang Awards and Metal Hammer Awards again. We lost to Clutch, which is fine because they're sick.
Yeah.
And then we came second to Asking Alexandria at the Kerrang Awards, but only by 150 votes. So, I think we got like 13,000. They got like 13,050 or something absolutely mental. Yeah. They came up to us afterwards and said, "We've never seen it so close. Here is some personalised Kerrang Zippos with your name inscribed." So I've still got that at home. Who wants that big K anyway? You can't share it. I'd rather have a little light.
That's it.
And we played on the HMS Hammer, which is actually the
boat.
Yeah, we played on that boat that goes to the Metal Hammer Festival.
Yeah, I've been on that boat. I've been on that tiny stage as well.
Yeah,
and for some of our listeners, maybe from other countries, along the Thames, you have to go to get to the Golden Gods and stuff and the Metal Hammer Awards. They have it normally at an arena or one of the sort of ancillary places of the arena, and you travel down on essentially it's a barge. It's like barge. A big sort of barge, and at one end is where you get on, and then there's a whole sort of middle section where it's a dance floor, if you will, people drink, and then just at the back of it is the stage. And I've been on that. I've been on that ship and play with bands, and it's just an extremely surreal experience.
That is exactly what it was. It was absolutely surreal. loading our gear onto a boat was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, it was at the time I was on it, and the video of the I'm on a boat motherfucker was on, and everybody, literally everybody was fucking saying it, like, because it was just. I remember loading. And cabs and stuff off the boat. I'm thinking, what happens if this falls in the water? That's an unusual problem I've never had before. It's bizarre. So it sounds like top of the world stuff. You basically tie in with Asking Alexandra. You're almost like the darlings of that newcomers sort of genre in general. So what happened then?
It was just after that Metal Hammer Festival. No, it was just after the Crying Awards that it was kind of brought to. Wasn't quite brought to light at this point, but so Mark and his wife Jules, she's Asian, she's from Barbados.
Right.
So they relocated to Barbados. We just thought it was because they wanted her to be close to her family or whatever. Little did we know at the time it was due to tax evasion.
Right.
So, and like I said, he set up all the Kerrang Awards and stuff, and he did all these tours. So he did us really, really well. So it was such a shame that he ended up being such a not a great person, I guess.
Yeah.
So they moved to Barbados. We were due our third record at this point, so we flew out to Barbados.
Sure.
So in 2012, we flew out to Barbados for 3 weeks to track our third record, which unfortunately turned out to be our final record, which was Ascent of the Murder. That was it. Ascent of the Murder, because Murder of Crows is my business. And yes, that was something. I remember a lot of that. And doing a record in Barbados is one of the first things I say when people say, tell me an interesting fact about yourself. Because not many people say they've done a record in Barbados.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what's the recording places in Barbados. There's 2 or 3, isn't there?
Oh, it was in his house. It was in his house. He converted.
Oh, right, yeah, because there's some famous ones. Oh, that's cool. But Barbados, that's beautiful. Yeah. Were you still? It sounds like you were still kind of rabbits in headlights as well. It was still a bit of a ride to you. Were you even looking back at this point, or are you just searing ahead because you're in Barbados? You're like what, 20, 21, something like that?
Yeah, 21 at this point now.
That's mind blowing stuff. It's almost too fast to take in, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was, what was that? So we were signed at 17, and then 4 or 5 years later we're in Barbados doing our third record. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
So, yeah, it was exactly that. It was very fast paced. We were just deers and headlights is a very, very good term to use, because we were still stupid, immature little boys.
Yeah,
we never got the jobs. We never went to college or whatever. We all just
we're
just idiots. So we learned our essential culture from being on the road, I guess.
Yeah.
So we did and what was good fun is that when we got there, the door to the studio was the last thing to arrive, and it arrived 3 days late, which meant we couldn't record because there's so much wildlife out there, all the birds tweeting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If we went to record without the door, you would have birds tweeting over this metal record.
Right.
So we had 3 days off as soon as we got there. That was it. Straight to the beach, mate.
Amazing.
Straight to the beach. Yeah. And we lived in this house for 3 weeks, and it was all all the food was made and stuff. We don't get the deal was we just never paid a penny.
Yeah.
So we got all the food made. We literally just got pissed for 3 days. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And then it was time for the record, and that was pretty crazy because it was 3 weeks. We all worked shifts basically. So I remember one night I got woken up about 2 or 3 in the morning. Like, do you want to start warming up? It's still taking a bit.
Wow.
So that was it. Yeah, up at 2 in the morning. There's a little behind the scenes video on YouTube somewhere if you search, I don't know, Deadly Waiting, Barbados maybe, or something like that. You'll find it. There's not too many things on there from us. And you can literally see me. Everyone's on the deck or whatever having a beer at 3 in the morning. There's me in the room just sweating it out.
Are you moving forward as a player then as well here? This is going to be, relentlessly touring and, playing most nights with very little time off, and then you're going and having to record and stuff like that quite regularly. Did you find yourself really kind of zoning into who you were as a player and how you played? And were these the formations of a style for you? Were you getting a style?
Yeah, I definitely found what I was trying to create. I was definitely talking my way through the music for sure. Yeah. I was watching players like Craig Reynolds, who's absolutely insane. Obviously, I was playing with Dan Wilding, who was the drummer for Trigger, and these players were just absolutely superb. And I was a huge fan of Architects, so that came into it as well. So I was creating this, I guess you just call it this kind of classic metalcore sound, but I really enjoyed off hits, and I was always a big time signature fan and off hits and stuff. And I was well within my element at this point. I was confident, I was quick, I was bilingual between feet and hands. I was well in my element by that point. Just playing metal solid for 6 years or whatever, 5 years. I was very happy at that point.
Were you kind of at the stage now where you were, I imagine, getting endorsements as well and stuff like that, so you could choose what sorts of pieces of kit you wanted to use and stuff, so it wasn't like where most of the time you work with what you've got. I would imagine at this stage have reversed it to being, I can really have kind of anything I want now gear wise. I can kind of play what I want. Did you find endorsements and stuff by this point?
Yeah, we were all pretty endorsed up by this point, which we were immensely grateful for. I was with Natal at the time, and Zildjian Cymbals and Roland Electronics.
Okay.
And the boys were with Ibanez and Orange.
So with the Roland stuff, you were using triggers as well and that type of thing. Were you experimenting as well here, or were you kind of we want to play with the metalcore sound and keep with that, but were you kind of looking at other things, bringing in samples and stuff like that?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was not necessarily beginning, but like towards the beginning, I was definitely trigger minded. I always wanted to kick trigger. I always wanted to kick trigger because that was that very produced sound, gunshots, and but then as time went on, it was more as a backing track style thing. I initiated the kicks, and I always liked to. It sounds so stupid now I think about it, but I always liked to play the sub drops. I didn't like them being on track. I liked to hit them myself and have that full energy with it.
Yeah, there's an energy to what Thomas is talking about is for some there will be an immense amount of drummers who will be listening to this, and for the non drummer out of there, sub drops. How would we best explain that to a non drummist? They're the lowest points and the biggest points of a song, if you will. Like they're the kind of heaviest sort of parts in an energy point of view, to keep it very broadly speaking. So I understand why you would want to do that yourself and not trigger that, because it's like hitting the big chord, if you will. It's like hitting the big riff. It's the drum equivalent of that, and subs and stuff like that refer to the frequencies of which these occupy. So you would that leads into playing that live. That the energy that's created with that, like it's an incredible part of that. Did you? So we're kind of recording stuff. Did the album get released? It did, didn't it? It got released. Yeah. It
ended up being, I think, either 5 or 6. I think it was 5 tracks, I think, at the end.
Right.
But it was some of the most proudest work I believe all of us had done at this point.
Yeah.
There was a track on there called Blind Preacher, which was our debut video from that record.
Uh-huh.
And it was just us touring, and it's such, at least twice a year. I'm not nervous to say this. I still watch that twice a year at least, because the reminiscence from that is sublime.
Yeah, it's
so much fun.
I enjoy looking back at stuff, and I imagine musicians all over do listen a little bit and look at their own thing, but you don't, when you look back at something like you watch a live video and you're a musician, you don't necessarily remember the flubs and the clams and the things that went wrong. You remember what happened that night, or the loading, or someone you met there. It's weird. It's weird when you watch a live video yourself. You don't necessarily see the playing, although that's a part of it. You think about, and that night I met so and so, and we did this, and it triggers 100%. Those weird memories, doesn't it? It's fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why then, and when did it ultimately fall apart?
Well, that was it. So when we left, Barbados after finishing the record, I think we nearly finished it. I think we basically finished it. I think we had to go back to the studio for a week or whatever back in England. Yeah. And at that point, I'm going to say just roughly a month after, or a couple months after, we were getting emails from bands, just other little local bands, saying we'd given Mark $8,000 for this DIY deal. It's gone over, but we're not hearing from him anymore. So, if you got an email or if you got a direct contact or anything. And we were like, oh, that's really weird. We'll give him an email or whatever, or here's his phone number or whatever. And then that happened again and again and again and again and again, and it just kept happening over like a 6-month period. We must have had loads of emails basically of kids just saying, we've given this guy $8,000. What's going on? Yeah. So I can't remember exactly, but it all kind of came to light. And that Mark was basically just a crook, and he was just taking money, taking some money. And they were all young, you know. We looked at some of their Facebook pages, and they'd have like 200 likes or whatever, and they were young. You could just tell that, you know, they'd ask, you know, they'd say, Mum and Dad, we're going to get signed or whatever. I'm obviously speculating, but, you know, they all look quite young. So it's kind of, you know, Mum and Dad, you know, if all of you chip in a couple grand here, we can get an album out, you know. And so, of course, they're going to do it for their little kid. And that was that. It was just, you know, and that would kill so many young musicians, which fucking sucked.
Yeah,
and we all felt that.
Yeah.
That was it. It wasn't the money in my eyes. You know, we found out that Mark stole $7,500 from us.
Yeah.
Because my dad was actually our manager when we were younger, when we were in that, you know, that kind of first record, beginning of the second record phase. My dad looked after us because, again, he was quite business minded as well. Yeah. So he was the middleman between us and the record label because we were just young idiots. And when Mark said we had to be nominated for the Kerrang Awards, he actually told my dad they cost $5,000, and so he paid it. We didn't know this, of course. And actually being on with the Kerrang Awards is free, so he just
no
reason whatsoever. So he just ended up being a crook, and that's when it all went wrong. You know, everyone at this point, it all come to light. Everyone knew. It was very, very obvious. He went to court, I believe, and all that stuff, and that was that. That was the record label. That was the record deal done. Everything's off. So we were then on our own 2 feet for the first time in 5 or 6 years.
What during that 6-month period? I'm interested. What were you doing then when you're sitting around kind of waiting for the phone to ring or waiting for a response for an email? Are you doing anything? Did it literally come to a halt and it was like, okay,
well,
we're in stasis here?
We've got the record out, and that still went out to everyone. So I'm assuming that was still, again, if memory serves, that was still on his bill.
Yeah.
That wasn't self-released. That was still released by Horizon Records. So I'm assuming we just toured that record, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I can barely ever remember sitting down between now and 15, so I'm assuming I didn't sit down.
It does move like a whirlwind, doesn't it? So you kind of finish that up and things become very apparent that's no longer a thing now.
Yeah.
Did you all kind of come together and go, what do we do now? Or were you already fractious and kind of deciding that we may have to look at something else? Was there a moment there?
There was definitely a moment. We all went to our bassist's house, as we always did, because he had a really cool kind of garden. We could just chill and have some beers. So we did that. Yeah. Decided what we're going to do. What's the plan? And we were like, right, you know, well, let's focus on the new record and stuff. You know, as soon as you release one record, you're like, right, well, let's write another one.
Yeah.
You know, people don't see a record for 2 years, but it's because they've been writing their record for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know. So yes, we're just like getting on that. We're on our own 2 feet now. Let's just do some shows. Let's write a new record. And we started writing a new record, and we done a tour with Fearless Vampire Killers. Do you remember those guys?
Yeah.
Right, some of the most loveliest dudes are in that band, and we just did a tour with them because they're very heavy makeup based. Our singer kind of got really, really into that.
Yeah.
So he started wearing more makeup as the time was going on, and then he started to really like their kind of music as well. That kind of Black Veil Brides, MCR kind of vibe. Yeah. So when we started writing that fourth record, it became apparent very, very quickly that was the way that Luke wanted to write, and that was not the way that we were into. We still wanted to write these really heavy metal records with some catchy choruses.
Yeah,
and that became very apparent, and that was that. Luke called a meeting. He said, you know, this isn't working. You know, wow. I want to write this kind of music, and you guys don't. We were like, no, we really don't. It wasn't like we can. It wasn't like, oh, I guess we could do that. You know, let's try it. It was no, we do not want to do that.
Yeah,
and that was that. That was the end of Deadly Waiting.
Wow. What a story that is just in itself. There's just an interesting sort of like, you know, little cycle of how things are. One of the things that people maybe don't realise if they've never toured and stuff is that what does happen is if you go out with another band, you do pick up a lot of musical stuff from them. You're like, oh, I like that. I like what they're doing. Maybe by osmosis or maybe by design. And you kind of come away going, actually, I'm going to try and employ these things in there. And it's weird how they involve your own musical decisions as well. So I mean, listen, let's be fair. Hats off to him. He comes out and says, "I want to do this," and you go, "Well, you don't." And you know, even at that younger age, you're still mature enough to go, "Okay, well, we know that that's not going to produce good music. Let's move on and move on." It sounds as though it was all very mutual and very friendly.
Yeah, you know, we all still chat now. You know, we don't chat every day because all of us live all over the country now.
Yeah.
But that would not have been easy for Luke. Luke was the face of the Deadly Waiting for sure. We were just the four geezers that wrote the heavy stuff in the back. He would get cupcakes and paintings and pictures and the amount of cues that kid had to have a photo with him was mental.
Yeah,
and he loved it. He fucking loved it.
He should do.
Well, me and the boys were happy we could just go to the bar, and he had to handle merch on his own because he had to take all the pictures. We can just go to the bar and have a beer. It didn't matter what.
Isn't it funny? I saw a band once. What were they called? I want to name check them. I think they were called La Confezza. I think they were called. They were a punk band from Italy, and they were playing some small festival. And the lead singer, who was obviously adored by the female of the crowd, were particularly enamoured with the lead singer. A very good-looking young man. Yeah. And at the very last song, he jumps and stage dives, which that's all very cool. And the crowd carried him. He carried him over. Maybe, I don't know. There's about 200-300 people in this place. Carry him over to the merch stand. He gets dropped off at the merch stand, and he goes, and without wiping his brow, goes straight in to selling merch to a clutch of women that have already made their way to the merch stand. And I was like, that's what you're meant to do as a fucking front man. That's it. You want to be at the front. That's what's going to happen.
Luke had no, we'd liked him to load in, but load out. But when it came to setting down anything, we were like, look, mate, you need to go to that merch stand immediately after every gig, and that was it. It was great, and he like I said, he absolutely loved it, and we loved him doing it too. We got a couple of pictures, which was nice, but it was more about him. So him losing that love and everything, because it couldn't have been easy for him to just leave the band,
essentially he's seceding from the band, and he's on his own almost in it from a mindset point of view, whereas at least there's several of you to kind of go, okay, what are we going to do? That's a big decision. It's very mature. That's a tough decision to make. So did you the rest of the band kind of go to the side and go, okay, what are we going to do now, or what happened then?
Yeah, we had a follow-up meeting. We were all absolutely gutted. The biggest decision which if I'm totally honest, I don't think I've ever said this in my life. I regret it because we changed our name because Luke left. We then changed our name.
Oh, it's not being happens to this. Hold on a second. There we go.
There you go. It's better.
There you go. That's it.
That's all right. And so I don't think I've ever said this before out loud, but we decided to change our name, and I wish we'd kept it because it would have been a lot easier, because we started a band from the ground up again, which, as every musician knows, is the toughest part.
Yeah.
Getting your name back out there. And it helped that we had a credible history, but it did not help enough for sure. So we started a new band with all the rest of us, bar Luke, and we got a new singer in called Jam. And we started Sleep Inertia, which was just straight up heavy, some clean singing, but it was way, way heavier, which is what we wanted to do. And it just didn't work out, if I'm honest. Just didn't work out. We were going back to doing little gigs and paying for stuff, and it was like, fuck me, this is hard. Forgot how hard this was.
Yeah. Well, what people don't realize as well, this is the same for like even established artists who move into a new project, is that nothing carries more weight than sticking around. So if you've been going for a long time, that there's a currency in that, because your name is in a lot of places. It's all over the internet, if you will. Whereas if you have to start from square one and create, for want of a better term, a brand, there's nothing out there. Your footprint isn't anywhere. You have to literally start again, and it can be crushing. It can be incredibly. And also, what's horrible is that you become attuned to, if it's not working, like you said, it just wasn't coming together. It wasn't making the noises that you wanted to make. And so you have to quickly make a decision to change streams or go and do something else. So how long was that then before you went, this isn't really working out? Was it quite a quick process, or?
It was about a year and a half. We did a record. Yeah. We did a record called Growth. What was it called? Growth, Decay, Transformation. I think it's called Growth, Transformation, Decay. I think it's the first one. Growth, Decay, Transformation. I think it's that. Okay. But I should have written this down before.
Okay.
I forgot how far back I was going in my brain. So we did a couple of really cool gigs. Actually, we did some really cool tours. Actually, we toured with Valleys Ablaze. I think they're still kicking about. They were sick. Rich New on drums. He's fucking rad. Which I think he's left, actually. And some other cool band. Roads to Nowhere as well. We did some gigs with Roads to Nowhere. We did some cool little tours, but it was cool little tours, which we hadn't done for such a long time. And it wasn't an arrogance thing, It wasn't just, we're above this. It wasn't anything like that. We had just forgotten how hard it was.
Yeah.
And the music industry, we were 17, so that's 2007. We got signed by sending out a CD. In 2014, that's not how it works.
Not at all.
So it was then like, fuck, how do you do this again? What is going on? So
yeah, because it's like you kind of when you move out of being looked after by someone who kind of takes care of that element for you, and you have to kind of DIY, and you already would have gone from a shift, like you say, from sending CDs out and stuff, and just the likes of MySpace and Napster and that sort of thing. Now you're coming into 2014.
Yeah.
Now how you present a band, how you publicize a band, and how you connect to other people is entirely different from when you started. Entirely different. So did you when you've kind of finished up with that project then, where was your head then? Because that's tough. That's kind of like starting again.
Yeah. So I realised that I had never played another genre in my life. I'd literally played metal, and I hadn't even played another song in my life. I had just played a Dead Leg Waiting catalogue. That's all I'd done.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest bit. It was like, wow, I've not played pop, rock, punk, indie. I've not done any of these things.
Yeah.
So when the Dead Leg Waiting split up, I had so much more time. So I actually joined, when I was in Sleep Inertia, I'd also joined As the Sun Sleeps at this point.
Right. Okay. So that's what I was going to ask. At what point does As the Sun Sleeps come into this? It's obviously about now then.
Yeah.
So why join the other thing as well?
Well, I realised obviously
As the Sun Sleeps as well as.
Yeah. So when I was in Dead Leg Waiting, it was constant. It was just absolutely constant. So when that time was freed up, it was like rehearsals with Sleep Inertia, maybe a couple of gigs, maybe do some writing. And I had so much more free time, which I hated. I hated having free time. I still do now.
Yeah.
And so I met Joe Beck actually got a job at this point at Nationwide, and I met him at Nationwide playing football. And so I had to get a job like a real man after all the touring. And then, then I met Joe through that, and he showed me some songs. I was like, mate, do you want to jam? These sound great. And he just showed me these songs on his phone at a pub, and it was, proper old school. And I loved him as a person, still do. And I just straight away jumped in the room with him. We did a couple of tunes, and we're like, well, let's this sounds all right. Let's do something with this. And that was the start. That was the start of that. And then I was juggling As the Sun Sleeps and Sleep Inertia, which is probably where it also went wrong, because I wasn't focusing on one group. Oh, hello.
That's that. It's good. It just clipped out. I caught it though, so we should be good there. Yeah. So that's what I was leading to, because it's one of the things that gets leveled when someone takes on another project is that you can't immediately focus on multiple projects. You can only focus on one. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do agree that you've released whilst you're present with a particular jam or recording. You have to be entirely present for that. There. Did you find then your playing's changing? It must do as you approach another genre, but do you kind of shift kind of even how you're playing the drums, even as a musician? Did that start to feel as though it was changing as well? No, you're moving away from maybe subs and that type of thing to more melodic playing, shall we say?
Yeah, so most definitely. So Ben, the guitarist of Sleep Inertia, was definitely the mastermind behind the whole Sleep Inertia thing. He programmed the drums, which I always liked, because guitarists write drums not like drummers. They don't have that. They don't have that box. He'd put double kicks under absolutely everything. He'd write these insane drum parts I would never think of. So I actually liked that formula.
Yeah.
As lazy as it makes me sound, it was a choice. But Ben was doing so much. And I think he definitely was getting very frustrated with the fact that no one else was pulling their weight. But I was also then obviously doing As the Sun Sleeps and really enjoying that different style of playing. The lucky thing with As the Sun Sleeps is that at the beginning we were very, very punky. It was still very melodically sung, but I was still going really punky stuff, and the fills were still very metal based. So I was definitely putting metal drums inside pop music for sure, at the very beginning anyway.
So this is the thing that I kind of talk a lot when we talk to musicians, particularly on the show. One of the things that I always say is that, yes, okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the and weight and validity in taking other styles and listening to them and then applying them back to your original style. It kind of adds other colours and other palettes to the style. It's not kind of some of the best music has been created because it took a slight step out of its particular genre. And I always think you get more as a musician when you piece of music, you know, it informs you as a musician, and it will make it better. It's not to be afraid of, nothing to be afraid of.
No, absolutely. I was definitely chopping and changing back and forth in mindset between pop punk and metal. But yeah, Sleep Inertia was still my main thing for sure. You know, As Sleeps was just me and Joe at this point. It wasn't even a band, you know. Then we started pulling in some people. We tried out some people, and then one guy stuck, and then we tried out another guy, and then this other guy stuck, and that was it. We were kind of glued in pretty quickly. Within 6 months, we were pretty glued in with the lineup, which is the current lineup you still see today with me, Joe, Broad and Trees.
Yeah.
At the gig you saw us at.
Yeah.
But Sleep Inertia was still my main squeeze for sure, because I was still holding on to the metal and playing with those guys as well. Obviously, playing with those people for 6 or 7 years at this point, you have such a bond when writing. You know, I knew exactly where Ben was going to go or where Steve was going to go. They all knew where I was going to go, you know.
Yeah.
So then, then I was with Joe and that lot of boys, and then we started gigging. I guess we started gigging in 2014. It was all pretty go from there as well, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of the things as well that maybe some people who are not in bands won't realise. When we talk about an act or a band being tight, yes, we're talking about musically they'll all being on the same page and musically playing in time, in tune, all those things that you'd expect, yes. But there's also a weird a sort of magic that happens when you know when something's going to change to this or change to that, or you're going to slightly go behind the beat, or you're going to ride the beat, or you're going to push the beat. And there's a wonderful push and pull in that happens with bands. Wonderful example of this is AC/DC. So a lot of the times people think they write very simple music, and they do. But to actually, you know, play like them, and they've been playing for many, many decades with roughly the same lineup, those nods that are suddenly, when you first start playing as a band and you're not very good, you nod to the guitar player to come in with this, you nod the drummers, or you turn around and go, this is the end. Those nods get very subtle. Then they get to being almost unperceivable, and then they disappear, and it becomes something psychic. It becomes very weird, and that's why it's so important to jam with other musicians, and that's why it's so important to do this live. And you hone that to a fine point. So I can understand why you'd still want to be, you know, because to lose that would be terrible, because it really helps the music. So I totally understand why, you know, As the Sun Sleeps, you kind of keep almost the same guys, because it's such a precious thing that you lose when it's people who've never played together before, like, you know, that unsaid thing, you know.
No, totally. And I'm very lucky now that I get the band, all the bands I do play with, I can write with very easily. They're all absolutely superb and make me sound a lot better than I am.
Did you find yourself writing more then? Did you start looking at songwriting as a part of your musical spectrum?
No, I've never been a good songwriter. I've always been a huge structure guy.
Right.
Always have been. I know exactly, you know, even if it's odd barring or you change the time signature or stuff or whatever it is that's changing. I kind of pride myself a little bit on having a good picture of what should happen when it goes here and when it should come out, and the transition and what the next transition is. There's
a number of great examples of where one of the best ways a band can work sometimes is that the other people that don't play your prescribed instruments can offer a different opinion that you wouldn't have considered because of the mindset of the instruments, for example. You know, the two examples I can think of, one's Lars. Lars Ulrich gets a ton of grief, but he's very much a form guy, like a kind of a pieces together. So you think of Sandman and you think of that riff. That riff was wrote by Kirk Hammett, but it was constructed by Lars. The tail at the end of it was him, where it's like, why don't you do this twice? But the tail, that's famous. But also, I'm reminded of, I think, was it Les Binks? He was the drummer for Judas Priest, and he was plunking around on an acoustic guitar, and he very crudely played called Beyond the Realms of Death. And it was basically just a kind of a bar chordy kind of riff, but it isn't necessarily what you would always play as a guitar player. But then obviously those guitar players jumped on that because it sounded interesting. So sometimes it's nice to throw that out there. What I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, when you're next in the jam room, is not to isolate the drummer or the bassist or whomever, and is to ask their opinion and go, what do you think of that? And kind of, because that's one of the beautiful things is we've all got ears, but we all hear things slightly differently, like, you know.
Well, absolutely. Like I said, Ben was always programming the drums for Sleep Inertia because it was stuff I would never think of, not in a million years.
Yeah. So So now, when do we get to kind of couples therapy? When do we get to that?
Oh, we're still a few years off that.
What's in the interim then? What's in the valley between that then?
So I decided just after sleep inertia and still doing some sleeps. So after sleep inertia kind of just disbanded. It just didn't work. So we all just kind of left it alone really. We did the record and that was that. And I decided to go back to ACM where I originally was at 17, just because I had such a great time to do my degree. So I did a degree in music performance, obviously specialising in drums. And I did that because, yes, I could blast beat really quick and do some quick kick stuff or whatever, but I didn't really know what 6-stroke rolls were or 5-stroke rolls and all these crazy, swing jazz. I didn't understand any of that independence. I never had it. So I decided I wanted to go back to university for 2 years and just absolutely hone in on my craft. So I become more professional, more business-minded, more understanding, better songwriter, everything that comes with it, and really, really give it a shot.
It sounds like in the first sort of part of your musical life there, you were very much kind of honing the muscle memory of things, if you will, the kind of learning to play and tour and that type of thing. And then there was a point where you were like, you know what, I really need to invest in the instrument itself and kind of let's fine tune it and kind of like, I can speak now, but I need to be able to sing, if you will, from a drumming point of view. So when you went to study it, you were studying things like, how to play your instrument better and song construction and that type of thing. But we were also studying like the business side of music.
Yes, we were doing business. We were doing songwriting, all the music theory stuff, which is another huge reason I wanted to go, because I couldn't read drum music. I literally could not read my drum music. I did my grades before university, and I just learned the songs. And I had to tell the examiner, I'm not going to turn a page, because if you don't say that, then you get marked down for not turning a page. Because I didn't know how to read. So I thought, if I go to this college, I can learn how to read. I can understand what the fuck a keyboard is, and understand a lot more about my instrument, the industry, and all that stuff. And and I really, really tried hard while I was there. I probably, as always, not as hard as I should have. It was still university after all.
What do they start with when they start talking about the music industry and the business? What's the first kind of things that they look at? Is it contracts?
Yeah,
is it kind of contracts and stuff and agreements at shows and stuff like that? Did he talk about PRS and stuff like that? Is that in the first part of it? What did he do?
Yeah, so it wasn't loads. It was one business lesson, I think, every week or two, and it was only an hour long. So there's only so much industry you can cram in an hour.
Yeah.
So I think we spoke about contracts for fucking ages.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of stuff I already knew, which was lucky. So I just kind of sat on my phone for most of it. And yes, they did loads of contracts. He said, they did PRS a little bit, but not loads. Obviously, the industry had changed, so they were talking about PRS for sure. They were talking about obviously insurance and all things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
How to not get swindled is basically what it was.
Yeah. Did you? And like you say, a lot of the stuff you'd already kind of experienced, sadly, at the wrong end of it. So you were kind of almost a little bit prepared. So how long does that whole period take up then?
Say again.
How long does that period take up of studying and kind of learning and that type of thing? How long did that take up?
That took up 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That took up 2 years. But on my second year was when I got approached about drum teching.
Right.
Which I'd already dabbled in drum teching back in 2012. I dabbled a little bit. I did some pop stuff. So I drum teched for Laura and Vula a few times.
Uh-huh.
For a couple tours I helped out doing her drums. And I did Jungle and Crystal Fighters.
Right.
So I did. It wasn't a long tour. It was about a year of doing stuff on and off. And it was like 2013 and stuff, because that's when I was thinking about maybe I should go back to uni, because I'm enjoying this drum tech stuff. This is cool. I'd never done this before, but it wasn't playing drums.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like one of the misconceptions of people that move who think they can tech. Don't realise that it's not just about playing the instruments. It's largely more about the maintenance of that instrument. Yes, you'll sit and you'll play at sound checks and what have you, but you won't put in the time as you would if you're an actual musician. It doesn't work like that. It's much more about the maintenance. It's much more about what the artist wants, about making sure they're happy. So you kind of go, okay, I think I'd really like to move into sort of the tech side of things. What's your first move then? When you go, okay, I want to do that.
So back when I was 2020 odd when I did the Lauren Vula stuff. I just got approached by a friend of mine who I'd bugged for a while because his life just looked absolutely sick. It looked so cool. You know, on the tour buses, he was in Switzerland or whatever. I was like, fuck me, that looks mental. I want that. So I messaged him, and then for ages, I've got nothing. And one day he said, actually, I can give you a gig at the MasterCard in Chelsea. I was like, sick. MasterCard, Master Sound? Can't remember. And I was like, yeah, mental, amazing. He was like, right, come and shadow me one day. So I was like, okay, cool. So I watched him set up the drums. Then I watched him set up the cello, then the harp, then the violin. Then
Who was that? Was that Alex?
It was not Alex Baker.
Yeah.
He's their tech now, but
he's their tech now, right? Yeah.
Originally, it was Cody Bramble.
Okay, I don't know.
He's one of who I owe a lot of my career to. So if you ever listen to this, thank you, Cody. And now he techs for Harry Styles and and George Ezra as well. So he's one of the big boys now, and he bloody deserves it. It's unbelievable, and he's a wonderful human. So I did all that, and then I decided I wanted to go back to university, and then I got a call in 2017, or maybe 2016. As I said, all blurred into one a little bit. I'm going to go 2017. I'm going to go with that. It's my final answer. Final answer, Mark. 2017. Going all in. And I got a phone call from Martin Oldham. Now, Martin Oldham runs Drum Tech Support, which is one of the biggest drum teching companies in the UK. You know, he does all the big ones. You know, he was currently out on tour with Nile Rodgers and Chic.
Yeah.
You know, so he was huge. So when he gave me a call saying, look, I've heard from Cody, funnily enough, I was like, oh my God, Cody again, that you were an excellent tech as well. And I was like, well, that's wonderful, thank you. I'd like to give you a job. And I was like, I can't say no to this, mate. He's the big dog. You know, it'd be ridiculous to say no.
Yes.
So then it was a very immediate decision of, right, I've got to now balance playing and teching, which was a tough start.
Yeah, because it's mindsets, isn't it? It's a slightly different mindsets, isn't it? You have a different portion of your brain that looks after the two separate things. I know a lot of people who tech and are in bands, and there's always like, if they ever know they're going to go out on a big tour, they always take a couple of days or a week off to kind of almost separate the two mindsets, like, you know.
They are two completely different things. And it was, you know, again, you know, so I've been the headliner in my career. I'd been the support guy in my career, but I'd never been the tech in my career. So I was like, fuck, this is... And so my first day was so incredible, but oh my God, so different. So different.
Who was the first person you were out with, proper, if you will?
So I'm still with them now, which is Public Service Broadcasting. Do you know those guys?
Okay. No, I don't.
They are the best dudes I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
They are, and they're so cool. Like, such a random band to do. So they don't have any singing. They just have. They do now a little bit, but it's all vocoder. But it's all. So every album is themed. So the album I joined on was about the Welsh mining industry and how it collapsed within years. And the vocals over the top are just clips of interviews and things that happened. And the music goes along with it, and there's a light show, and there's a television screen that goes along with it all as well. It's
like a whole VJ thing as well with it. Yeah,
it's an unbelievable show, mate. Absolutely incredible. And they are all so funny and lovely and wonderful. It's been an absolute pleasure working.
Is it percussion as well as drums? Is it a whole sort of thing? It sounds like it's more of a production.
So luckily there's two techs on that. There's got Jack Bonney, who takes care of the percussion. Well, the percussion guy also does keys and bass and guitar, so he kind of falls under that. Yeah. And then he does the main man, Will Goose, because I can't use their real names, not allowed. I have to use their stage names. So Will Goose is the main man. Yeah. Will Goose Esquire. He'll tell me off for not saying Esquire. Will Goose Esquire. And he's the main guy. So Jack deals with Abraham and Will Goose, and I'll deal with Wrigglesworth. trying to remember the stage names and not real names. But luckily, he just does drums and SPD. His kit's super easy. Yeah. Really, it's easy to maintain because kits are right. I guess if anyone's looking for any advice, a drum kit is really easy to maintain as long as you maintain it all the time. Do you take a couple of days off? That bit of mark is going to be hard.
Yeah,
to get
people think that when you have a day, it says day off on the tour sheet. People think that that's a day off for the crew, and that is just not the way it works. No. You can't leave stuff if you're touring through somewhere very, very hot, and you leave all that stuff in equipment underneath in the bus, and you pull that all out and expect it to fully work that day after being like that for a day. Good luck to you. It's not going to happen. And so it's that constant maintenance. What did you learn in those first couple of shows with them then? Did it feel like deep end stuff, or did you feel like, okay, I think I've got this? but I'm getting it, or...
So I was super lucky to land that band because they're super chill and they're super welcoming and super lovely.
Yeah.
And the first thing I realised was not to try too hard, actually, if I'm honest. Because you overthink it and try too hard, you're gonna make a mistake and you're gonna make it publicly. Where if you just do what makes do what makes sense over do your hardest. I know it sounds really silly. Yeah. But when I started out, I was marking out every single little bit of the kit and every single little leg, and I looked down at the carpet. It was just covered in tape, and I was like, "That looks ugly." Because I'm forgetting about my natural instinct as a drummer. Obviously, a kick drum's going to go there, and if the kick drum there, obviously the hi-hat's going to go here. Yeah. Where I'm marking up absolutely mental amounts of the kit of the rug, and it just looked ridiculous. And I took away some tape, and I was like, "Well, obviously that's going to go there. If that kick is there, that hat has to go there. It'd be ridiculous if it didn't." So I took away some bits, and then I looked down and I was like, that looks so much prettier, because the aesthetic of the show is also a huge part of it. You know what it's like when you take down cables, Yeah. You've got to have that stream of cable looking really slick. You can't just have it, you can't have tape all over it, and you can't have it looking messy. It has to be somewhere in between. And that was what I learned, is that the in-between is the sweet spot. If you've got if you've got a cable all covered in tape, and it's, don't get me wrong, it's very safe and it's not gonna break or anything, but it looks ugly because it's just covered in tape. Yeah. But you have the other end where, you've got a little bit slack. You're like, okay, so it's not so much tape, but that is dodgy. That's got a little loop on it. If somebody catches their foot, then that's pretty bad. Then you've got the middle spot where if that tape is there and that tape is there, but you've got that little bit of tape in the middle where no one's going to trip, it's nicely put together. That's the sweet spot. That's what I learned very quickly.
A large amount of it comes from as techs and crew and stuff, is the whole game is the audience must know that you are not there. They must have no hint that there was someone there to make that happen other than the musicians. So if you're seen on camera, when the camera looks at the stage setup and it sees a whole bunch of tape, it ruins the illusion. It's the strings that you see kind of moving all that. There's smoke and mirrors. You can't have it seen. I was always mortified if the band was doing a live show and I watched back on it and you could see me in any way. I was always mortified because I was like, you mustn't know that I'm there. It's the reverse of being a rock star. It's almost like you're not meant to be there at all. And the best shows are the ones where people don't even realise when you go, oh, everything okay, and you tell them about a problem that they didn't even realise. Oh yeah, that went down, did it? Yeah, but we sorted it.
Yeah, there was one time I felt so uncomfortable. Oh, sorry, say again.
No, keep going.
Oh, sorry. There was this one time I worked for, Bauhaus filmer Peter Murphy?
Yeah.
So I did that tour. I did that UK and Europe tour. That was last year. Last year, I think. No, it wasn't. That's a lie entirely. It was the year before. Yeah. And it was my last gig because they were off. So I just done the whole of UK, just done the whole of Europe. And we ended in Brixton, and then they were off to, where were they? Greece. They were off to Greece for just 3 more days, which I wasn't going to do.
Right.
So I did the Brixton show. Me and Pete had a special relationship. He liked me a lot, and he was a funny dude. He was a funny dude, to say the least. And he said, Thomas, he was like my full name, Thomas, today I'm going to bring you on stage, and you're going to say goodbye to everyone. I was like, no, I'm not, Pete. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. He's like, no, Thomas, I'm going to do it. I was like, oh, mate, I really, please don't do that. And I thought he was bluffing. And then there's a bit where he plays the what's it called? It's going to take the voice melodica thing.
Melodica, God, the name escapes me too. Yeah.
Yeah, the melodica. Yeah, and there's a bit where I have to hide behind a bass cab and give him that, and then he gives it back to me.
Yeah.
And he does this thing. He does this big stage thing. It's really great. And then he passes the bass cab and brings it to me, and then I run off stage. This time, I go to grab the melodica from him, and he grabs my arm. And then that's it. He brings me to the front of stage. At the end of the song, I'm just stood there with my blacks, my black t-shirt, black trousers, my little cap. And he says, Scott, bring up the lights. And actually, the whole lights come up on him. And I just stood there, cacking myself.
I love it.
And he goes, everyone, this is Thomas Shrimpton. It is his last day today with us, and they're going to miss him. And that was it. Cheers up and everything. I was like, oh my God. So I gave him a little dab, and that was it. I was off.
Yeah, it is nice when bands do that to you. And you kind of recognise the crew, or they'll give you like a song to play. I've had that a few times. Like, oh, you do the last song, whatever. That's nice. That's them tipping the hat. One of the things I would say as well is that especially when you go out and maybe your first couple of jobs, things are going to go wrong, ladies and gentlemen. They always do. Every show has something. And if you want to see it, the best way I can explain it is it's like a meter. If you imagine a meter filling up, and if you make a mistake and then panic because of that mistake, the meter fills up a little bit more. Yeah. And then if you keep panicking, it fills up. And when it reaches the top, nothing else, it'll just always go wrong. So the key thing is when it does go wrong, and it will go wrong, stride, because otherwise I've seen it radically scale out of control when things go wrong, you know. But it sounds as though you had a blast doing this tech thing. It sounds as though it kind of really awoke another part of you as a musician as well. Kind of like, it seems like you, coupled with learning about the instruments and learning about the business, you really kind of getting a whole sort of really good and well balanced sort of education, it seems like.
I definitely learned a hell of a lot, and I still love being a tech now. I still absolutely love it. And mate, things have gone wrong. Things have definitely gone wrong.
We've all been there.
Mate, literally, unbelievable. I remember my very first gig. I was teching for PSB. Very first one at the Electric Ballroom in London.
Okay.
And my first day, and I'm quite good now, but back then I literally only knew things about drums. I didn't know guitars. I didn't know pedal boards. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was just a drummer that happened to be good at drum teching as well, which was quite enjoyable. Yeah. But we did the sound check, all great. Support act goes on great. We're going on, we're all rolled on, drums are checked, great, we're ready to go. There's a buzz in the monitor, and 45 minutes we were late because we could not figure out where this buzz had come from. 45, and there's nothing I could do. I offered help, but I offered help. There was like no.
Sometimes there's nothing you can do, and you have to kind of just hold your own and go, okay.
That was it. And then we were just saying, what has happened here? And it turned out that someone had unplugged something, basically. Somebody had just unplugged something. But it's those things, you just got to keep your cool. You know, Jack was very good. He's been in the industry for a long time. He's very, 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 very good at his job, and he didn't lose his cool once. And if you did, you've got several thousand people looking at you going, come on, let's start. And you're going, I can't, mate. You want to. So, those things do happen, but it's keeping your cool, exactly as you said, is a huge thing.
Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to get through it.
Yeah, because otherwise it just becomes like, honestly, a piano starts playing and you start falling around like a clown if you lose it. But yeah, so you do the tech and thing. When does the teaching come in? I think that's fascinating to me though.
The teaching's new, so the teaching is post masters really. I did a bit of spit spat teaching kind of throughout when I was off tours and stuff, but it's been since my masters that I've pushed this teacher and drums kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I met Let's Swim at university, and I met couples therapy when I moved to Brighton. So I did those kind of things before, and then I did my masters, and I always knew I wanted to do something with teacher and drums as a brand. And I was a huge fan of Mike Johnston, who does Mike'sLessons.com, and a huge fan of Adam Tuminaro, who does OrlandoDrummer.com. And what they are banks. They're just a website with loads of incredible lessons, basically. So Mike Johnston does loads of the Cascara and all those kind of cool African drum beats, and does some just incredible person and drummer. And you pay £200 or whatever for the year, and you have access to that website. There's no one in the UK that's really doing that, and that's where I wanted to hone in. So that's been my main job, should we say? Just trying to get that up and running. So obviously, I released t-shirts today. In fact,
today.
You can go pick up one of those. And so now it's just getting the YouTube up and running, because you want to get the Patreon ready, which is all just stuff I learned doing the masters at Waterbury. Really, it's not the most exciting thing in the world to most people. To me, I'm absolutely loving it.
I think it's. I'll add a ton of links to this on the podcast to the drumming and teaching stuff. And one of the things that I think you'll find, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're learning to drum and would like to go to somewhere, is Thomas has got a wonderfully relaxed way of approaching it in a really nice and open presentation style. I think that's something that sometimes you don't feel as though Thomas is shouting at you. Sometimes when you get lessons, you can sometimes feel that person is telling you the information rather than explaining that information. And I think Thomas has got a wonderful way of explaining it and a real nice sort of candor about it. I'd strongly advise checking out everything he does. And like we often talk about as well, and if you are looking for a drum tech, I know several, and Thomas is at the top of many. you going to lean into the tech and lean into the teaching most definitely with the quarantine and what have you? What's the kind of what are you thinking about?
God, I guess it all depends on this quarantine stuff, man.
Doesn't it just?
It is absolutely fucking crazy. So I'm supposed to be on tour. I can't say the band right now because I'm contracted until a certain point. Yeah. But I'm supposed to be in UK tour September and USA in October. That USA tour is definitely not going to happen. There's no way the US are going to open those doors anytime soon.
Yeah.
I know it's still 4 or 5 months down the line, but there's a lot of health and safety that has to go into it. You know, you can't just chuck 30,000 people into a room after something like this.
Yeah, you can't just displace that.
No, so I haven't got my hopes up for that. I'm still hoping for the UK run. I think the UK might by then, because we're already kind of looking past the worst, maybe. You know, I'm no doctor, man. I've got a fucking clue what's going on.
I don't think anybody else. I don't think even the doctors have a clue. That's the worst thing of it. Like, I don't think even they do, you know. But it's nice that you've pivoted quite nicely in launching the online thing. I think that's fabulous. I think that you've just seen where the waves are and rode them quite well, which I think is quite a good euphemism, if you will, of your career so far. You know, what a super attitude to have from moving through, which sounds like Thomas sounds like he's been in every single band that's ever existed since 1995, and he's played through all these just rolling with the punches. Tom's is a super nice guy, and it comes across, but what belies that slightly is he's a fantastic musician, you know, and I think you should check out, I'm going to put a link to as many of these bands as I can remember, there as many bands as Thomas can remember onto the podcast, but fantastic. Like, it's been great to chat. We'll definitely, ladies and gentlemen, should we get Thomas on again? I think we probably should. Definitely check out all his work, and definitely check out the drum teaching. I think if you even got the slightest interest in drumming, I think you're really going to enjoy that. Beautiful. Thanks for being on, Thomas.
I would just quickly say, if you don't mind, of course.
As always.
So I'm just going to name a couple bands I'd love you to check out if that's possible.
There we go.
Just did a little plug at the end.
Yeah, that's all good.
Couples Therapy for sure. They're not called that, so they're just called Couples Therapy. Let's Swim, Get Swimming, and As Sun Sleeps. They're my boys. Friends bands, you got Ollie Wade, and there's so many other bands I'd love you to check out, which I'll give to Mark to list in the group, in the thread or whatever. And then if you could just go check out my YouTube, T-shirt drums, and pick up a tee if you like t-shirts. I'm sure you like t-shirts. It's getting hot. t-shirtdrums.bigcartel.com. That's it. That's everything I've got going on. I do a free 1 hour lesson to anyone who wants to get involved.
Yeah, so I think that's it. I think that's something that you'll definitely see a lot of people get involved with. I think that's fantastic. The 1 hour lesson is going to be pretty intense. That, like, have you thought about, just as we close up here, have you thought about talking about the business as a whole anyway? Just doing things about that. We've covered a lot today, but you know, you seem like you're in a very good position to advise as well.
If anyone's got any questions, mate, email me, t-shrimpdrums@gmail.com. I am more than happy to get back to you. But if I'm honest, there's still, mate, the industry, as you know, is changing every single day. And especially with this going on now, there's going to be things I don't know, for sure. Yeah. So, I'm more than happy to help anyone with any questions they may have. And I might not have the answer, which is, absolutely fine. But hopefully I can help in any way. But, I can definitely help. But I don't want to, I'll have to have a conversation about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Thomas Shrimpton. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thomas Shrimpton there. That was one of the most enjoyable chats I think I've had since I've been doing the show. There's been some great episodes, and that was really kind of one that I think joins it, talking about contracts and stuff and what can happen and how you can kind of change your life, and you can go in other directions. You can choose other music. You can kind of go in different forms and choose different ways of expressing what you're doing and find different ways of revenue streams and earn a living from doing that. And I think it was a really interesting and positive conversation that Thomas puts across. And that's why I would suggest checking out all of his drum work that he's putting up. He regularly puts up drum tutorials and things and inspirational stuff that I think you really would get a lot from. If you're any musician, not just a drummer, I'll put links up to some of the various projects that he's involved in as well. Fascinating sort of journey, and I think you would have got a lot from that. I certainly did, and that's the whole point of these things, is that we listen to people's stories, we take knowledge and things that we think are interesting and inspirational from them and apply them to our own lives, and hopefully in some way make our own lives better from it. And it sounds like a grand concept and for a little podcast like this, but it's those things that the messages that I'm getting back from people who listen to the show and it's helping them kind of figure out life and figure out kind of where they are underneath the umbrella of metal music. And that's what's going to happen, is that we're going to figure this out. We will get to the end of this pandemic and this virus thing, and some form of normality will come back, and we'll be able to get together and watch live music and play live music in front of an audience again. It will happen, folks. It will happen, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, thanks for listening, and I will at some point see you at the show.